2-inch thermoseal. 2-inch thermoseal is a product that is already rolled out, but we'd like to speak to that today. It's part of the thermoseal family. We launched the TM200 in November of 2012. And at the same time, we reorganized the thermoseal family naming conventions. The 1.75" 20 gauge that we called Thermoseal Optima was renamed to the TM175-20. The 1.75" Thermoseal Standard was renamed to the TM175, and the 1.5" Thermoseal Basic was actually discontinued at the end of February. Now, the reason we had to do this renaming is obviously as we were coming out with a 2-inch product, what are we going to name that when we've already used the word Optima? And so on the commercial products, you'll see some standardization occurring that's related to renaming these out of these types of categories and more into a meaningful descriptor on those. So why the 2-inch thermoseal, the TM200? We were seeing many, and I'm sure you were too, specifications calling out for a 2-inch polyurethane product. The TM200 boasts an R value of 18.3, which we know is important in the commercial market. The exterior aesthetics matches the Tricor and Thermoseal families. It's got that pencil groove aesthetics that everybody's used to coming from the Rainer products. We've got a full view aluminum window option and the rigid frame window option. Those are those rigid frames that are black right now that everybody's used to seeing in the Thermoseal and Tricor families. Polyurethane insulation provides maximum insulating properties. Dual joint seals and an integrated thermal brake provide reduced air infiltration on this product. We've obviously have all the Rainer locking options that you're used to on the other commercial Rainer products, the exhaust vent options, pass doors, post options. So, you know, it's really a complete, robust offering as you're used to on the other commercial products. Thermoseal family, I can tell from yesterday that this is going to be difficult to see on the displays there, but really this is talking about the stack up of the TM175 kind of taking the place of the Thermoseal Basic, the 1.75" product replacing the 1.5", and then we've got the 20 gauge version of that, and then the 2-inch offering would be at the top of that. Now later this year, as we look at the 3-inch Thermoseal, obviously that'll take the top slot there. So at this family level, we will, by the end of the year, this year, have 4 models where we've got 3 consuming that right now. 3-inch AlumaView door. This is a new product that's scheduled to come out in the next 60 to 90 days. 3-inch AlumaView that we will call the AV300. We have some challenges with our current 2-inch product. Doors greater than 12'2" in width require U-bars that show through the glass. Doors greater than 16'2" actually have welded diagonal sag trusses in the bottom section if that's glazed that show through the glass. Any door requiring wind load specifications, especially in the state of Florida, the state of Texas, and along the Gulf Coast, we've got a lot of demand for wind load products, but as we try to reinforce the product for wind loading, that's more and more trussing that shows through the glass, and people really don't want to see that through the glass. Because many aluminum doors are being placed in aesthetically pleasing environments, such as fire stations or restaurants. So, you know, one of the things we really have to overcome is supplying a product where that trussing's not showing through the glass. They want full visibility through the glass. So what's our solution? It's actually a 3-inch thick aluminum door compared to our 1.75" and 2-inch models now. We can actually get up to 20'2" with no trussing at all on the door. Preliminary test shows that a 14'2" wide door will withstand a 200-mile-per-hour wind. And so we just get a lot of additional strength in this product. And that's related to the section thickness and the heavier wall thickness of the extrusions provide that strength. a lot more so than the 2-inch product. And when trussing is required, we've designed these extrusions so the trussing can actually slide inside of the rails of the doors. So we feel pretty confident that we can get to some pretty decent widths without any trussing showing through the glass. Product offering, we will offer this to match the 2-inch at launch, but we expect to transition to 32-foot wide within a short time frame. Will be at 24-foot in opening heights. The actual section thickness will be 2 7/8. The reason for that is we're actually using some existing extrusions that are supplied with the tri-core full view section. So we added some more extrusions, and that's how we're able to make this 3-inch product. Joint weather seal will be standard. Header seal will be optional. A 6-inch bottom rail will be standard on this product, and 3 and 6-inch top rails, depending on door width, will be standard. But I'll share this in a minute. We actually have the ability to offer 9-inch rails if there's aesthetic reasons to do that. Anodized or armor bright finishes will be available. Standard sections, stacks, and panel schedules will actually match what you're used to today with the 2-inch product. But we do have the capability here in certain aesthetic applications to go with section heights as low as 12 inches or up to 32 inches on this product. We know that sometimes based on the aesthetics of the building that our standard section and panel arrangements don't quite match the building. So we have some flexibility there. That'll usually be custom engineered product, but at least know that we do have that flexibility. Panel widths not exceeding 48 inches will be available. But we do have the ability in certain situations based on door size and things like that where we think we can get up to 6-foot wide panels, where you're pretty much used to the 4-foot panels today, those restrictions. So, and over time we'll grow that once we get a better comfort level with the product. Double end styles, one greater than 16'2", that'll match the brake today on the 2-inch product. We do have the ability to go with a triple end style. So based on aesthetics, if you, just like when we talked about the rails, you can also flex the end styles to offer different aesthetics. And when you think about how you can flex the section heights and the panel widths, you can actually get a lot of flexibility from an aesthetic perspective on a look that matches the building well. Glass and panel options will match what today you get in AlumiView Optima, the 2-inch product. So kick panels, all the different kinds of glass that you can get will also be available on this. At some point in the future, we would like to add a 1-inch insulated glass. That won't be there at launch, but down the line, we plan on adding that 1-inch insulated glass to further enhance this product. I spoke briefly, I'm not sure how well you can see this, but we actually designed the end style extrusions so they slide together. So this is where I can either I can have one as a standalone, I can slide 2 together or even 3 together. And we're using the same extrusion on the end style as we are on the top rails and the bottom rails. So that's how we're able to accomplish that flexibility on the sides and at the top and bottom of the door. Model name changes, we talked about that a little bit with ThermoSeal. When we launch this, we were kind of in the same situation on the 3-inch product. Our 2-inch product was called Optima, and it's like, what are we going to call the 3-inch product? So we'll go through a similar renaming of the product as we launch the 3-inch. We'll call this 3-inch the AV300. The present AlumiView Optima that's the 2-inch product, will transition to AV200. AlumiView Standard will transition, and that's our 1 3/4 product, to be the AV175. So we think that as you see these model changes that we're establishing some consistency and some room to grow at the top and bottom ends or even in the middle of those products where we were a little bit limited by the basic standard Optima offerings. So, and as I said before, what's better than an Optima? We joke at Rainier, do you call that a Optilux or and so those are kind of why we're trying to get away from that and go to some standard naming conventions on our commercial products specifically. Regarding the meeting rails, so these would be the rails between your intermediate sections. Those would be 5-inch intermediate rails with 075 thick aluminum. 3-inch center stiles are standard with 063 thick aluminum. 3 3/8, that would be the dimension of that end stile, 075 thick aluminum. And then the double end stiles would stack out to 6 7/16. And obviously, if you want to make a triple end style, that's going to add another, 3 3/8 on top of that. Fire door redesign. We're really changing from old technology to new technology here. The fire door redesign is actually a rolling steel change, but it's also a commercial operator change. So you're kind of getting both of them intermixed with the same thing. Old technology, I know everybody is used to oscillating governors and release levers and governor link bars and all those components that are both on the drive and charge side of a fire door. Closing speeds at 20 to 24 inches per second, which is faster than what we would like to see in a fire door. A lot more difficulty for an installer to make field adjustments here. Longer installation times, and it's difficult to assemble in production. You can just look at that head plate assembly and tell there's a lot of labor that goes into putting that all together. The new technology offers easy reset, resettable operators, drop test closing speeds of 6 to 12 inches per second versus the 20 to 24 on the oscillating governor designs. And the installation time is reduced somewhere between 5 and 15%, depending on the operation of the door. We're going to drill into the details here, and I suspect that you can't see these pictures very well on the Proxima, but what we're showing here is a charge head plate that you really see today. Now, going into the new technology, this will be the same on manual lift doors. So we're going to step through each operation and speak to those. So we're going to focus on manual lift doors right now. The charge side is exactly like it is today. Since it's operated manually, you've got to be able to have enough spring tension in the door to be able to raise and lower that manually. That means that in a release situation, you've got to be able to release some of that springing like you're used to on all fire doors today. So manual will require some spring tension to be released as it is today. The charge side on manual lift is really the only thing that has not changed, so stay tuned, and we'll hit the other items. The drive side on manual lift actually utilizes the same centrifugal clutch that we presently use on our fire shutters. It's a triple reduction, and that'll result in a drop speed of 6 to 12 inches per second. With the centrifugal clutch controlling that descent and not an oscillating governor. No release devices are required on the drive side. Only that spring tension release that occurs on the charge side of manual lift doors. So now we're going to talk about chain, crank, and motor operation, and I will say something about crank. A few years back, we discontinued crank operation. We're bringing that back in right now. So chain, crank, and motor, we're going to talk about those on the charge side altogether, and then we'll get into what goes on the drive side. What you really have on the charge side with chain, crank, and motor operation is you have a service door setup. We are not releasing any spring tension on the charge side. There's no release devices. It really is a standard service door charge setup on the charge side of the head plate. The door is actually charged to keep it heavy. The mechanism on the drive side will control the operation and the descent. So where you're used to, that's the one difference between a service door. In a service door, you're going to put enough turns in the charge wheel to keep that balance. You're actually going to leave it heavy and allow the drive side to control what's going on. So let's jump over to the drive side, chain operation. This utilizes an easy reset inline gear drive system with a built-in clutch for operation of the door with hand chain. The door is open utilizing the hand chain. It is closed utilizing the pull cable handle, which is in the lower right-hand corner of the screen there. So to raise it, you're going to use the chain. To lower it, you're going to use the release lever and not use the chain hoist. And then testing uses that same pull handle because, as you can imagine, the door is open. You can close it by utilizing the handle, but you're testing it the same way in a drop test situation. Crank crank is just like I described with the chain operation, except there's a, it's open using a awning type removable crank handle that ties into that, that eye bolt at the bottom there. So the mechanism is really very similar and almost the same, but instead of a chain hoist being attached, it's got the mechanism to drive that through a crank handle. Same idea though, to close the door you're going to use the release handle, and to test the door you're going to use the release handle. Motor operators, this is where it gets a little bit tricky. As you know today we've got the FDCL and the FDC, which are LiftMaster units. We've got the FSE, which is the McKeon unit. The one thing we're introducing is the FGH, which is a Lawrence operator. The one point to keep in mind here is today you can use a Rainier manufactured operator on fire doors. So I'm talking about control hoist or power hoist. Those can no longer be used on fire doors with this new technology. It's got an easy reset gear drive system. It's open and closed by standard push buttons, and doors can be activated by various methods, and I'll get into a little bit of that a little bit later. So I want to stress again, a Rainier manufactured operator cannot be used on fire doors moving forward. We have to use either the LiftMaster, McKeon, or Lawrence solutions. So no control hoist, no power hoist. So let's step through this a little bit. These exist today. We've got the FDCL, which is the LiftMaster light duty unit. That's 1/2 horsepower. It's got a battery backup of 2 hours. No release devices, but you can close the door by alarm, smoke detector, thermal sensors in place of fusible links, or a test key switch and button. The FDC is what we would define as the LiftMaster heavy duty unit. 1/2 and 1 horsepower on these, battery backup up to 72 hours, no release devices, door can be closed by alarm, smoke detector, thermal sensors in place of fusible links, and the test key switch button. Really the same between the FDCL and the FDC. And then we've got the McKeon unit that I know most people are familiar with. That's available in the third, half, 3/4, 1.5, and 2 horsepower. No release devices on this. Can really close by the same means as the LiftMaster units, except you can add in the fusible links, and then you've got the power failure with the 10-second delay included in that. And then the Lawrence operator, the FGH, is really the new operator we're adding to our offering. That will be available in 1/2, 1, 1.5, 2, and 3 horsepower. It has an auxiliary chain hoist up to 2 horsepower. And what that means is the 3 horsepower will not have that chain hoist, but all the other units will. It will work with a McCabe link release device, and it can close by alarm, smoke detector, fusible link. And I know I'm rambling through these specs, but at the end I have a cheat sheet that will help everybody, so don't worry if you're not keeping up with all the detail on this. When used with an LM21-XP, then you can close the door by alarm, smoke detector, fusible link, key switch button, or power failure. What's different there is it doesn't have the power failure with the 10-second delay. When it's used with the release device, the LM21-XPBB with the 72-hour battery backup, then you can close the door by alarm, smoke detector, fusible link, or the test key switch button. And then with the release device, the LM21-AFCB, I know Ray's dying right now with all these codes, so but in any case, that with the 72-hour backup, alarm, smoke detector, fusible link, test key switch and button. So when it comes to motor operator doors, how do I open my door when there's a power outage? If you've got the LiftMaster, the light duty LiftMaster unit, the FDCL, good luck after 2 hours, you're not going to open that door. With the LiftMaster heavy duty unit, you're not going to open that door after 72 hours. With the McKeon operator, you're not going to open that door after 10 seconds. With the Lawrence operator, since they have that auxiliary chain hoist, you can open that door except for the 3 horsepower unit. So the question is, why would I not buy a Lawrence operator, the new model FGH, for my fire door? Well, if I need the operator to be resettable via the operator, the LiftMaster or the McKeon operators will be required. What does resettable via the operator mean? If the operator gets a signal to close the door by an alarm, smoke detector, power loss, then once power is available, the door can be reset by the open button. So the only time that you wouldn't buy a Lawrence operator is if you're in this situation. For everything else, the Lawrence operator, the model FGH, should work. Are we confused yet? Now, with the codes on the operators, let's talk about that a minute, because we've got FDCLs, FDCs, FSEs, and now we're going to add this FGH. Those aren't Rainer codes. Well, we thought to keep things as easy as they can, those are the supplier's codes. So when you see FDCL and FDC, those are actually LiftMaster model names. When you see the FSE, if you're familiar with McKeon, that's their opener. And the FGH is Lawrence's model name for that opener that we're introducing. So how do I keep it all straight? We developed some charts, and this will be part of your marketing materials that help understand when it comes to the operator release guide. You know, depending on what your release devices are, for example, you should be able to drive back to, you know, what will work with what as far as these models, and if it's resettable by the operator, if it's not. And so we've got this chart that will be part of the marketing collateral that'll go out. And then we've got this, and I know this is difficult to see on the screen, but then we've got this operator release technical guide that's just a different twist on the same information that will help guide you through what your requirements are. But I would tell you, before we had this laid out, we were having a hard time keeping it straight also. So once we sat down and kind of created this, then we really give this to the order entry, I'm sorry, the people doing takeoffs, because as they're reading architect specs, they have a difficult time trying to figure out what they're supposed to specify or quote on a given job. So this has really helped them. So I feel pretty good that since this is working for our takeoff people, that this should be a good guide for our dealers once we kick this out.